I don't want to take up too much space. How many times has this limiting belief come into your thought process? In your personal life, in work, starting a business, putting your first post out on Instagram, sales calls. You don't want to over-dominate. You don't want to be too much. I've suffered with this in my life quite a lot. And it comes from a fear of being too much. And for a lot of my life, I have feared about being too much. And I know a lot of people have that too. And when you have this fear and this limiting belief, it shows up in the way of speaking too softly. You mumble your words. How many times have people gone, oh, can you say that again? And you have to repeat yourself continuously because you're not speaking up, because you're too afraid to take the space around you. You're not present. See, that's the problem. When you have this fear and you have this limiting belief, you're actually not in the present moment. You're in the first circle of energy, which I've spoken about before, but we'll go into that in a bit. You mumble. People don't actually understand what you're saying. You'll probably speak in a monotonous tone, and it will have people switching off and not listening to you. They'll hear you, but it doesn't mean they're actually listening to you. You're just making a vibrational noise, which is low vibration, because there's no oomph behind it. There's no pizzazz or whatever word you want to use to give you that boost. There's no confidence. There's no backing. Because you fear that if you add that to it, you're being too much. And someone will go, oh, can you tone it down? That's a bit too much. And I've had that. The worst fear of being too much, the worst thing that can happen is someone say, oh, can you just be a little bit more quiet? Now, I go to a brotherhood every Saturday morning, and we have to speak over the sound of loud waves. And not one time has a brother or a man stood in front of a big group of people been told to quieten it down. It's actually the opposite. You have to fill your space, become more present. Now, that doesn't mean you have to shout. That doesn't mean that you have to overdo it with the amount of volume that you use just so you can reach it, because then that would take you into the third circle of energy. And again, that's not present energy. So you've got this first circle and this third circle of energy. You want to be in the middle. You want to be in the second circle. So how many times have you withdrawn an opinion or not even spoken up? You've been thinking something. It's on the edge of your tongue. It's on the edge of your mind, and you really want to say it, but you don't, because you fear it's going to be stupid, or it's going to be silly, or it's going to not be listened to. Or you think it's going to be too much. It's going to spark too much of a conversation. You hold yourself back. And then it starts to fester here, this pain around your solar plexus and around the belly, because you're stuck behind this feeling. I've had this for a lot of my life. And you then become really over-apologetic. Your choice of words, you're always apologizing for them. Oh, I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Or I'm sorry, oh, did that sound all right? You apologize for your tone. Oh, that came out wrong. Or, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to sound like that. Well, what did you mean it to sound like? Because for you, second-guessing what you're about to say and not allowing the truth and the present version of yourself and the authentic version of yourself to come out, that's why it doesn't sound right. That's why the tone isn't right, because you're not saying it from a place of presence. So with all of this, you then avoid leadership. You avoid any opportunity to get up and speak in front of people, which means you don't promote your business. You don't speak to the people that you really want to speak to. You don't make new friends. And you don't go and speak to the woman of your dreams who's right there in front of you. You hold yourself back. And you get stuck behind that energy right about here. So I had this fear. I've had it most of my life. And my story behind this is because of school and my ADHD diagnosis at 7 years old. And I was taking Ritalin from the age of 7 till 16, which meant that my entire personality was suppressed by taking this drug. I couldn't be myself, I couldn't express myself fully. I didn't really know who I was in my formative years, from 7 to 16, where you're growing up, you're going from turning into a boy, from a baby to a boy, into a teenager, under the influence of drugs, amphetamine, Ritalin, terrible. You can't be present because you're wired. You're wired on these drugs. And then your voice is stifled. And there's a version of you that you really want to be, but you're not. These drugs stopped me from being able to be myself. The ADHD diagnosis also stopped me from being able to be myself because I was labeled by other people. Yes, I was told I was funny. Yes, I was the class clown. Yes, I was disruptive because I was making jokes or singing or being creative with voices and playing around. But I'm a kid. And I grew up in the 90s, so this is when, if anything that came up that disrupted a class, they needed to make their quota of different grades that they needed for the council in order to get more money off them. So it was all a business model for them, so they didn't care about the kids as much as they should do. I think this is the schooling system in general, but we'll go into that another time. So, on International Book Day or Film Day, I can't remember which one it was, we were able to dress up in our favorite characters and go into school. And as you can see here, I was dressed as Captain Hook, as a pirate. What does piracy really mean? It means freedom, to sail the 7 seas, to pillage and plunder and be free, free of the captivity of society. My dream of being a pirate, getting to dress up as a pirate and go into school. And the day I was able to go into school dressed as a pirate, I was isolated. I was too much. I was told I was too much because of what had gone before, because I was loud, singing, speaking too loud, speaking about things that weren't to do with the lesson. Now I understand, it's school, but it was never acknowledged that this is a different way of learning, a different way of doing things. So I was told I was too much. And because of this, I had a recurring dream in my mind. I was this bird. It was like an imaginary friend kind of vibe. And this character in my dream was very expressive, super charismatic, really good at speaking, was able to start conversations, have amazing interactions with people in my dreams. And I'm sure you've done this as well, where you've gone into a situation where at the time it's all a bit too much, and then when you leave, you start to think about all the things you know you should have said. That character, that version of me that I had, of all the things I know that I should say, in the way that I know I need to say them, in the right tone, with the right intention, with the right action, they were the version of me that I knew I always was, underneath it all. But it was suppressed. And I think, 1, to do with the drugs, the Ritalin, and 2, because of the maturation of my brain. I was 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. I hadn't fully developed into an adult, therefore there are certain things that we learn and as we go along in our life, and our cognitive maturation is growing with us along the way. So now that I'm older, I'm able to address these things and understand why and work with them. So another thing I'm going to add is that as a child, because of this lack of ability to express, when the drugs wore off at the weekends, I was more expressive and I was angry and I would swear. And my dad did not like me swearing, so he'd chase me with a bar of soap and put it in my mouth and wash my mouth out with soap. So this fear of being too much comes from a childhood. In my situation, and there are probably psychological reasons why the fear of being too much comes up in your life, because you don't want to take up too much space, because you probably have at some point, or someone told you that you were too much. And now in a world where we need to be able to take our space and put ourselves out there, because if we don't put ourselves out there, we don't get paid, we don't meet someone, we don't have any interactions with anyone. we end up sat behind a computer screen with a bad back, getting overweight, not eating properly, not gymming, no relationships, lack of interactions with people. So for me, the game changer was getting an acting training, a voice training, and a singing training. And even when I started this fear of taking up too much space and being too much brought on something such as stage fright. I was afraid to get on stage. Funny that, I managed to audition my way into a course, but I was still afraid of being on that stage. That fear manifested itself in panic, a panic attack. On the first day, I think it was, of my college course, I was told to prepare something to perform in 10 minutes. I had 10 minutes to perform something. And I sat in the corner of the room, cowering, like hugging my knees, like shaking, and was terrified. I couldn't do it. I had a panic attack. I was like crying and like hyperventilating because of this expression that I really wanted to do, but I was stuck here. Wasn't able to progress. And it really had a massive impact actually on the course for the first 6 months, because there were parts and things that I really wanted to do, but I was being overlooked because of this fear, because I wasn't able to get past myself. I was stuck behind myself and unable to get through it. So the acting training that I went through, that was giving me tools, that was giving me confidence and experience. Oh. And then at the time I was working in a nightclub, so I had this ability to maneuver through a club and be behind a bar and have interactions with people. And when other people are drunk around you and you're the sober one, it's a good way to practice conversating, because you know that they're going to forget about you in the morning because they don't know who you are and they're drunk and you have a sober mind. So this gave me a lot of confidence in chatting. And on the way home from a shift, I was walking and two drunk guys go, "Oh, what do you do?" And what do you do? And I said, "I'm at a performing arts course." "Oh, that's really gay." I said, "Well, actually, there may be gay people on the course, but it's bloody hard work and it's so fun. I get to sing, I get to dance, I get to act, I get to put on silly voices, and I get to have fun every day. What do you do?" "Oh, yeah, I'm an electrician." Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being an electrician. But that's their truth. My truth, I wanted to perform. And they go, "Oh, go on then, give us a song." And it was at that point where this fear of being too much, this pain, sort of drifted away. Because for that moment, I had to prove to myself and own my truth and go, actually, yeah, and fight for something I believed in and stand up and go, this is what I do. So in that moment, I sang, and it cleared all of this space away. And I'd been doing voice training for about 2 or 3 months prior to this. And that openness, that ability to open up the front of the body and breathe, that changed the whole game for me. I no longer had this self-judgment, no longer had this self-critical voice, no longer had this like cringe thing that I was feeling before about myself. I was giving myself the opportunity to get over the cringe. Stage fright is your worrying about getting it wrong. And you don't just get stage fright on a stage when you're acting or when you're singing. Stage fright happens. It's that thing that causes approach anxiety. It's the same thing. Approach anxiety, stage fright, same thing. It's an inability to get past yourself. And because you feel like you're going to be too much and fuck it up and get it wrong, and you're going to get it wrong and someone's going to berate you for it and be like, "Ah, you're too much, you've done this wrong." So these fears, you're not being overly dominant. And in this world, you have to be quite dominant in your conversational skills if you want to be able to get your point across, because everyone's very loud. Everyone is speaking a lot. There's video after video after video. I mean, how many YouTube videos have you watched in the last 20 years? It's all there. People are speaking. Everyone's speaking. So this fear of being too much, you have to be too much now. You have to do. There is no such thing as too much. The work never stops. You have to keep going. And it's about self-ownership. It's about knowing how loud you can go. It's owning your voice. It's about knowing how loud you can go, how quiet you can go, and everywhere in between, and how big you want to go with something and how small. And if you don't know your 1 and your 10 in terms of energy that you're exuding, how are you meant to decide how you play it? The more you self-own yourself, the more you know about yourself, the more you experience what the highest cringe thing is you can do and expose yourself to these things where you are too much and being rejected and being told that you're this, that, whatever, and you're too much, you're too loud. I've lost friends because they've told me that I was too loud. And I'm like, bro, you've known me 20 years. And now you're just telling me. And it's never about that. It's never about too much. I've got a client who said that her dad is a very loud man, but he suppresses her. She's too much, she's too much. And that's just his own internal dialogue with himself that he's projecting onto her about himself. But she knows herself now. And she's learning about herself. And now she knows herself, she knows that that is what's going on, that's what the case is, because she's developing more self-love, more ownership. I'm glad it was there. And you claim your place. You claim your place by speaking up, by putting yourself out there. The breath we take in, that we transmute into sound through the vocal cords out into the world, getting the internal into the external, is how we claim our place in the world. Even deaf people, when they use sign language, are expressive and they take up their space. They own their space. You don't even have to add the sound to it. It comes from the body. And the voice and the body are as one, because the respiratory system with the phonatory system and the articulatory system create this. And expressing with our gestures. Look at Italians. You know what they're talking about. Even if you don't understand Italian and you're stood 100 meters away, if they're expressive, you know what kind of mood they're in. They're not afraid to take up their space and own it. So you resolve this by working on your presence. You work on your voice. You work on how you show up in spaces. You put yourself into situations where you face rejection. I worked in London knocking doors, where I had to stand at the front of doors and say, oh, hey, I'm Bobby from the Red Cross. Won't be too long, 5-10 minutes. And just got a question for you. Have you ever done first aid? Do you know first aid? You got to own that on the door. Some people close the door in your face. Some people will tell you to fuck off. Some people are like, what are you on about? Some people looking at you like you're a murderer or a weirdo. I knocked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of doors, constant rejection over and over again. Not just acting training, an actual in-field knocking doors experience. That is how you get over it. You put yourself out there, and that's going to bring you more money opportunities. It's going to bring you more dating opportunities. It's going to bring you more friendships. And it's going to weed out friendships that aren't worth anything to you because you're putting your truth out there. And you weed people out that don't deserve to be your mates when you speak truth. That's a fact. If I speak too loud or am too confident, I'll be seen as aggressive or arrogant or too much. I feel like this would be something that affects us as Brits, Europeans. Tall poppy syndrome, if you've ever heard of that, is where the tallest poppy gets cut off first. We're not allowed to celebrate our wins. And at the Brotherhood every weekend, the question is asked, who feels like they are not able to celebrate their wins or don't celebrate their wins enough because we hold ourselves back, we haven't done enough. We'll be accused of this, that, whatever from the local people around us if we express that we've won. We're cut off. We're told that we're too much. Oh, who does he think he is driving a Lamborghini around? Oh, I bet he's got money. Oh, she only likes him for his money. These are all jealousies. These are all insecurities. These are all people's projections that we don't need to listen to. We need to stand in our place, own ourselves, own our voice, own our space, own our confidence, and speak your truth. Personally, I don't give a fuck about Lamborghinis. I don't like them. If someone wants to drive them, go for it. But that's not for me. And I don't like it when people try and bombard me saying, oh, you need to like these kind of things in order to match. Nah, I know what I want. I want a 4x4 Mercedes Sprinter so I can travel around the world in it. And I want an E-Type Jaguar from the 60s. And I want this, these things are fine. I don't have to have the norm. I don't mind. And sometimes I want to take up too much space. I want to be too much. I want to put myself out there and be like, yeah, fuck yeah. I celebrate myself, and you should too. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to big yourself up. Because at the end of the day, if everyone around you is telling you you're too much, who else you got to tell you that you're fucking enough and that you can put yourself out there and to take up your space? It's just going to be you, isn't it? So, some things you can do, I think I've done, is what I do when I go on stage, is I go into the audience before the show when no one's sat down. This is what Tom Hardy does when he's doing a play. He would go into the audience seats and shout, "Hey, how you doing? Fill the space!" from the audience point of view. And then he'd go back on the stage, and all of a sudden, it's not so scary because he's been in that domain. He's been in the audience domain. He's broken the fourth wall behind the scenes and gone back onto the stage and done it. So that's it. If you start looking at people and saying, oh, they're cringy or they're too much, check yourself, because you're probably stifling yourself and it's not allowing you to speak your truth. You're projecting.